Hello and welcome everyone. I am Lindsay Cantrola, Director of Sales and Marketing here at Symbria. I want to thank you for tuning in to learn more about how you can leverage your pharmacy to be more like a partner rather than just a vendor. I hope that you walk away from this webinar today equipped with the knowledge on how your pharmacy can help you ease challenges that may seem beyond the pharmacy wheelhouse. So to talk about this subject, I have with me today Ryan Cable, who is our Director of Pharmacy in Missouri. So welcome, Ryan.
Thanks a lot, Lindsay.
I don't know, Ryan, if you want to share just a little bit of your background.
Absolutely. So I joined Symbria about 7 years ago, and I joined at a time when we were opening our first separate pharmacy from our central Chicago location. So I'm based out of the Kansas City area, and joined the team really on day one. So I've been there since our Kansas City-based pharmacy opened. Gradually, my role has grown over the years, and now I oversee operations in both Kansas City and St. Louis locations.
Great. All right. So I thought maybe we could start out today, Ryan, with you talking a little bit about how pharmacy can assist with staffing. We know that staffing is a huge pain point for well, honestly, everywhere, but specifically in senior living. So I thought maybe you could talk a little bit about, because I don't think people really connect that dot on how pharmacy can truly help assist in staffing.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think, obviously, like you said, this has been a huge challenge for nursing facilities. And um, I think it's a question that's not really being asked of pharmacies. One of the things that we really pride ourselves on is, communication with communities. And I think that's a question that needs to be asked of pharmacies. How can a pharmacy help a nursing care facility with its staffing issue? And there really are a lot of ways that we can, and it takes a little bit of creative thinking at times, but there are opportunities. One of the huge things that benefits nursing is packaging type of the medications that we deliver. So traditionally, the most common form of medication packaging in long-term care facilities is bubble cards. And while we all get comfort from doing things the same way over time, oftentimes we miss out on opportunities for time savings and efficiency gains. Um, with customers that have transitioned to strip packaging, there have been time studies done where a 45-second per patient per pass time savings can be observed by nursing or by the patient or a person administering those medications. And while that might seem small, if you look at the numbers, it's a really substantial gain.
Yeah.
So that's just with time. In a lot of communities with the transition to strip packaging, fewer staff members are needed to pass medications to the same number of patients. And with
Yeah.
something like that, that's a godsend to a lot of communities.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah, I think when you say 45 seconds, Ryan, a lot of people are like, well, that's not a lot. But
Mhm.
when you multiply that out around how many patients there are and then equate that into time from 3 med passes, you really are looking at potentially saving on an FTE.
Absolutely, and it's something that I've observed. I've seen it with my own eyes where communities have really taken that change and run with it, and really reaped the reward from a financial aspect and also from a staffing. The staff that they have feels the relief. Kind of related to that, with the transition to strip packaging, we can also, because staffing is so short, and we're all looking for people to fill in. With strip packaging, it's very easy for someone who's maybe not as familiar with the patients they're delivering medications to step in. Everything is consolidated and very easy to administer. It doesn't require that, I hate to say, really thorough knowledge, but it allows for staff to step in and really provide relief. If they have to cover maybe 2 halls of MedPass rather than one. Also now it's not out of the ordinary to see administrators or nurse leaders step in and we've gotten a lot of great feedback from them stepping
Yeah,
in and saying, wow, this is so much easier to pass meds. I don't know why we ever did anything with bubble cards.
absolutely. And then you look at, improvement of errors,
Oh,
or
absolutely.
reduction in errors because it's an easier med pass.
100%. 100%. With some EMR providers, we even have the ability to provide barcode scanning capability to for that extra check in the process. Yeah, like you said, there's that
Would
extra step.
the scanning capabilities also support with the reduction of time, or, support of time savings for nursing?
I mean, certainly. I mean, there's definitely a step that's required with an EMR to document
Mhm.
administration of meds. If we're able to put a barcode on the packaging that we provide to to identify that these are the appropriate meds to administer, certainly that helps from a time savings and a safety perspective. Okay.
So Ryan, as you know, I worked in the senior living industry for quite a while, and I had experience with Symbria. And I think one of the most attractive things, and I would like you to kind of touch on it because this saved us significantly from a staffing perspective. I oversaw admissions for multiple communities, and one of the biggest barriers where we were not taking admissions due to staffing. And one of the biggest issues where we had to actually pull a nurse off to be able to enter in those orders, which we didn't have a nurse to pull, to put in orders. So, is there anything out there that could assist these communities that may not be taking admissions due to staffing?
Absolutely, absolutely. We're really proud of ourselves for communicating closely or collaborating closely with our facility partners to identify that was a serious weakness, right?
Mhm.
Nurses didn't go to school to sit there and enter orders. They really want to take care of patients,
Yeah.
and that's a really big part of taking on new admissions. So like I said, we've partnered closely with our communities to begin providing a service.
The other part that I'm thinking of, Ryan, that was really helpful to my team was, we had to say yes in a really quick time. So I had a nurse as a clinical liaison who sometimes would get pulled to the floor, and I would have an admission staff that would need to step in and kind of do those drug quotes and decide in a quick time. It was difficult. Is there anything out there for these communities that can help them make that decision quicker by not, and also maybe not utilizing a nurse to do that role?
Absolutely. So we have a portal that staff members can access. It has a lot of tools. One of the things that we're most proud of is the drug quote tool. It really allows for quick access to real-time pricing. It allows for that really quick check for pharmacy pricing because we know that those high cost medications can really sink the ability to take on a new admission. And so, one of the things that our drug quote tool is set up to do is eliminate the extra noise. If there's a low cost medication and you enter that medication into the quote tool, it will immediately say it doesn't matter how frequently you take it. It doesn't matter the dose. Move on to the next one. This one isn't going to move the needle.
Hmm. Okay, great. Wonderful. Ryan, is there anything else that, that potentially that Symbria does, but obviously this webinar is to help inform people what questions should you be asking of your pharmacy. Is there anything else um, that really can support from a staffing side?
Yes, absolutely. One opportunity that we've really observed is very successful is Symbria taking over. That's something that is very commonly seen across communities is that they manage their own house stock. And essentially, pharmacies that's our bread and butter. We know how to manage inventory and really handle that for the community. Take it off their plate because one, it takes a lot of staff to manage that inventory, to order things in, to get it to different areas of the community and things like that. Really, the benefit is obviously that, so they don't have to manage it themselves, but also that those patients are able to have those medications included in strip packaging. If it's a scheduled medication, or we can supply a small a small quantity of pills. So it really eliminates the waste.
Hmm.
It eliminates having to manage it. And one challenge that we've really seen for a lot of communities is that they have this immense house stock that they're managing, but they don't really have an effective way of charging patients for use of that house stock. So they're
Hmm.
paying for it, they're maybe not managing it as well as they could, and then they're not really charging for use. So we can take over that whole process, managing it, delivering it in packaging that really saves time for administration, and we can also um, charge whether it's the patient or we can charge the community if it's they're on a med A stay, take over all the billing aspect too. So from a staffing perspective, from really any angle, there's a huge benefit to the community.
Yeah. Okay, great. All right. So let's talk about something that typically falls under just nursing wheelhouse, right?
Yeah.
And that's infection control. A lot of people don't really look at how can pharmacy help me with a quote unquote nursing issue, right? And that's infection control. So Ryan, can you talk a little bit about that?
Absolutely, absolutely. So this was something that, really hadn't crossed our minds until we hit COVID, and COVID has obviously changed everything. Um, but if you think about the way that bubble cards are delivered in, let's say, 14 or 30-day quantities, and if you really try and wrap your mind around how many times those cards are touched by all the staff members that come in and out of the building, it's pretty overwhelming. Um,
Yeah.
if we can deliver medications in a package that's touched one time, it is opened and thrown away. Imagine, the limits that we're putting on risk for infection control. It's it's amazing to think how many times bubble cards are touched, and if we can take that out of the equation, I think there's a huge benefit to the community and really the patients. So yeah, we're
Yeah.
really proud that's an extra thing that we're able to provide.
So Ryan, the other piece of that I'm thinking bubble card standpoint, let's even think about the medications that are going into the residents or the patient's mouth, right? So
Yeah,
with strip packaging, am I not correct that so there's the most instances there are zero human touch to the pill itself. Whereas with a bingo card, there's potential touch quite a few times. One at the pharmacy level when they're, putting the pills in the bingo card, right?
right.
And then also when you're dispensing.
That's absolutely correct. So there's
Okay.
much more manual manipulation in the packaging process, and just to get it out of the bubble requires handling by the nursing staff member as well. Whereas a vast majority of the products that we dispense have really never even been touched by human hands. It
Yeah.
it all goes through an automation process, um, and so yeah, the first time that it touches a person is the person that's actually ingesting the medication.
Yeah, so for communities that are maybe looking at, how can I best leverage our pharmacy? What questions should they be asking their pharmacy when it comes to
Okay, so the questions that I would ask the pharmacy are, what are their infection control measures and what procedures do they follow to ensure that that product is delivered, free of contamination? I think that would be
Mhm.
the first question. The second question would be, is that pill touched during the process of packaging? And if so, how many times? What's a reasonable expectation? By the time
Yep.
that's delivered to the community, how many times has that been touched? And the other thing I think worth mentioning is, you know, as you filter through those bubble cards, as you're passing those medications, we've all observed nurses, and nursing staff like filtering through. All of those hands have touched that bubble card. So when they're popping pills out at the community, they're essentially touching places that have been touched by so many staff members. And
Mhm.
so, if you really think about it, it's like so many hands have touched that pill by the time it's getting administered to the patient when we're using
Yeah.
bubble cards. Now, if it's a simple tear open the package and administer it to the patient, that patient's getting it and touching it for the first time. So the patient that's ingesting the medication is taking it for the first time or touching it for the first time.
Right. Okay. Great. Awesome. So, Ryan, most people do not look at pharmacy in a way of helping them with finances. In fact, it's probably one of the largest expenses to communities are their pharmacy bills, right? So, what are some ways that a pharmacy can assist with the financial aspect to these communities?
So I think we've touched quite a bit on staffing and really the support that we can provide and the relief we can provide essentially from a staffing perspective. Obviously, that has impact on financials. The other huge opportunity that I think people need to be asking their pharmacy about is the quantities that they're delivering. With more traditional delivery styles, it's not uncommon to see 14 and 30 day supplies being delivered. And I think that's really we're missing an opportunity here because when we can dispense in very short supplies, like a 1 day supply, we're able to really eliminate waste. And waste is something that we haven't always thought about, right? We haven't really put a number on that figure in the past. And that's a real missed opportunity. There's a lot of money when a medication is changed, and that's something that we really see commonly in these more complex patients. If a medication is changed, we have to throw that medication away if it's discontinued, or if a resident is discharged right after we delivered a 30-day supply, that cost comes to the community and they've got to pay that bill. And so the real opportunity is dispensing in that 1 day model so that we can eliminate that waste. Also, we can capture all those changes and deliver it in packaging with all the changes reflecting the most current and up-to-date orders. So really, you reap financial benefits and you also see an easier med pass and less for the nurse to maintain because the nurse is confident that the medications in the strip are the most up-to-date orders because they're coming every day and being updated every day.
Yep, absolutely. All right. So ultimately, I think this is really the point that you want to try to drive home to people, right, Ryan? To
Yeah.
senior living leadership that is really looking at their pharmacy just as a vendor. What would you like to tell them as to how they should be looking at their pharmacies?
I really think that we need to create partnerships. I think pharmacy in particular is classically a vendor that you only reach out to when there's a problem. If a medication doesn't arrive or you're missing something or something's expensive, that's typically when people reach out to their pharmacy. It's not common for somebody to call the pharmacy and say, "Wow, I got all my medications." That's an expectation.
Yeah.
I think the way that relationship needs to change, and when I say partner, I mean there needs to be consistent collaboration and communication. A lot of the things that I've talked about are programs or things that we've developed based on that communication and that partnership.
Mm-hmm.
And it can't be understated. It takes creativity. At times it's exhausting trying to figure out how pharmacy can help with things that in the past we haven't had to. It really hasn't been a factor or it hasn't been something that we've thought about. But it's super rewarding to hear a customer or hear a facility say, "Hey, this is a problem," and come up with a solution and have them come back and say, "Wow, like we didn't think, that was just something that we brought up. We didn't think that pharmacy could help with that." And to identify a solution for them is really the most rewarding thing possible. And so that's really something that I challenge every community to do. Reach out to their pharmacy and ask them, "Hey, these are my problems." Even if you think maybe they're not things that pharmacy can impact, give them an opportunity and see what they can come up with. And I think if you've got a good pharmacy, you're going to be amazed at the things that and the feedback that you get.
Awesome. All right. Thank you so much, Ryan, for your insight and your advice. On the screen, I've provided contact information for Ryan as well as myself in case you have any specific questions that weren't addressed during this webinar. If anything in this webinar has piqued your interest, I highly encourage you to reach out to Ryan or myself.